This is Mark Cheshire, and I'm really excited to welcome you to the inaugural event, the DevNation Day, focused around modern application development, and welcome all of you to this fantastic event. We've got more than 30 sessions, 3 labs, and a great keynote lined up for you today. To kick things off here, my name is Mark Cheshire, and I'd like to introduce you to Romain Pellis. Romain works with Red Hat in the area of Ansible. And for many of you that were at Red Hat Summit just less than a month ago, will have seen just how important automation with Ansible has become to Red Hat. You may have seen some of the headline announcements like event-driven Ansible and bringing the ability to be able to use generative AI to define your Ansible playbooks with Ansible Lightspeed. Today, Romain's going to share some more insights on best practices of how to automate the software development lifecycle. Before we get onto his talk, just some logistics. If you have questions, by all means, ask questions in the chat. This is a very short presentation. We'll try to get to some of them if possible. And otherwise, there's also opportunities in the chat during the breaks on the main stage where we'll be happy to answer more of them. All of these presentations are being recorded and you'll be able to find them on YouTube. We'll let you know as soon as they're available for viewing. With that, I'll hand over to Romain. Let me just get the presentation up here. And take it away, Romain.
Thanks. So hi guys, welcome to my talk about breaking silos with Ansible. I cannot stress that everything that Mark just said is completely true. Automation on Ansible is very important for you and hopefully also for Red Hat. I'm also very excited by Ansible, event-driven Ansible, but sadly I won't talk about that today. I'm going to talk about silos and Ansible. So before we jump right into the topic of the day, I'm just going to get you situated with who I am. So first of all, in case you haven't noticed by my adorable accent, I'm French. I'm a French guy living in Germany. I've been working for over a decade for Red Hat now. And actually, I've been working in the Red Hat universe for longer than that. My career already started into JBoss, which became part of Red Hat rather quickly. And my focus has been, for a very long time, my focus was middleware product, and I have shifted to be more and more into automation solution. One of the reasons for that is that I was an early adopter of Puppet and an early adopter of Ansible. I've been advocate, a supporter, an enthusiast about open sources forever, since almost 20 years. That's why I love working in Red Hat. And actually, my whole career has been built on open source. I think I have never used a proprietary software in my career as a software engineer. So I'm a lead software engineer of something called Ansible middleware. We'll talk a bit about that later on. I don't want to dwell into that right now. And you may also know me by other medium, which is the Red Hat Developer blog. I'm a regular contributor. I'm writing an article every 3 months lately for the Red Hat Developer blog. I'm also one of the few ones that started contributing content at the beginning of this project. I've been also for those of you who read French magazine, if you happen to read Linux magazine France, the French edition, you might see my name. I've been writing for them for almost 15 years now. And on a more personal note, I'm playing drums, and my music, the music of my band is on Jamendo, because my music is also open source. And for those who know that, I love Shadowrun, but it has zero bearing with today's talk. Okay, let's get started with the next slide. So that's the agenda. Basically, it's a very small slide deck. I think I have less than 20 slides. It's going to be a short and hopefully nice presentation. It's basically 2 parts. I'm going to state what I think the problem is and describe what I mean by having the need to break silos. And in the second part, I'm going to discuss how Ansible might help or not with this problem. Let's go right away. One more slide. Hop. So this is SOTA of app deployment. By SOTA, I mean state of the art. So before we delve into what is the issue, I'm going to try to describe how in a perfect world we want everything to work in our industry. So if you are deploying a new application or update an application on your production environment, what would be the perfect dream scenario and how it will work. So first of all, you would like to be able to deploy in a way where there is no downtime. User can keep using the application without any issue. You just you click and it was running version 1 and now it's running version 2 and everything is fine. And you want to be able to have no downtime even if you have to update the app or the infrastructure below the app. The second thing you would like to have in a perfect world is something as a one-click deployment. Actually, zero-click will be better, but something where you just say, I want this version to be running live. I push a button, or I fire a command line, and boom, magically, my production environment is using the new version. You want to do that in a secure and in a repeatable way, meaning that I have 2,000 servers running this instance of application. I run my magical deployment solution, and boom, my 100 servers are all using the new version. Or if there is an issue, if something fails, then you automatically roll back and the old version is running instead, and you can figure it out and just schedule a new deployment for later on. Another part of this magic world we want to have is, of course, security, because we are in the 2020s. We're no longer in the early 2000 years where people didn't care about security, so it's a good thing. So we need to have authorization being managed, credential being managed, and all of that should magically be happening. I deploy my new application, and all the users that need to access to the application have access to the application. They are all authorized to do whatever they have to do with the application, and everything is magically done. Another aspect of this magical world is app auto scales. So of course you want to deploy 3 instances of your application, but if you need more power at some point, you want the application to scale to 5, and if you need less power, you want the application to downscale to 2. And actually, downscale is probably the most important part here to save money. So that's the dream world. So if you are familiar with a product called Red Hat OpenShift, and if you're attending DevNation, you probably are. It is this. I just described a lot of things that OpenShift does. It's very good, but I want you to keep in mind that here I'm trying to discuss the features, like how we want it to work. The fact that it is OpenShift or not below these requirements is irrelevant at this point. It's very much about what do we want to achieve. I describe that as OpenShift level of comfort. Like if you don't have OpenShift, you want OpenShift level of comfort. Last note here, I have not found a way to make that very well go in my slide, but do remember that in this perfect world, behind the scene, you have DevOps. You have people matching the description of DevOps engineer. You can't build this perfect world with a regular ops or regular dev. You need DevOps keen people. Okay, switching to the next slide. I forgot to put the picture. With a bit of chance, I think the quote will remind you this video. If you have never seen the video on the internet of the expert in a meeting, I want to say, stop listening to me, go watch this video. It's an hilarious video, which is so true. If you have ever attended a meeting in your life, you will watch this video and there will be piece of truth in it. And one of the very funny moments of this video is that the technical expert is trying to convey to the rest of the group that what they're asking makes no sense or is not simply possible. And at some point, the project manager put his fist on the table and say, "What's stopping us?" Geometry. So that's a bit something here, is that everything I've described earlier is very nice on a paper, but you can't just say it's going to work for everybody. So first of all, even if you have the option to use OpenShift, if you can buy OpenShift or just deploy the OpenShift, the issue is that it won't fit all your use case. It might fit some use case very well, but there is some case where you won't be able to use OpenShift. So not all organizations can use OpenShift, whether for budget reason, for also maybe not having the right skill set to use OpenShift, or having a lot of legacy systems still running on internal infrastructure that cannot be easily moved to OpenShift. Evidently, not all app can work in OpenShift. There is some scenario where there is some old app or very monolithic app that's going to be a mess to transfer to OpenShift. And by a mess, meaning that it won't work. And even if you're lucky enough to be working in a big company and they're like, hey, no problem, we have a plan. In 3 years, everything runs on OpenShift. Yes, but you still have to run for 3 years without it. And even if OpenShift or Kubernetes is an option, you're going to be very quickly running into an issue with silos, because even if you have this whole magical infrastructure, you still need your dev to work with your ops. And you need them to kind of communicate in a way that the automation is going to provide what you need. And that's the main blocker in the picture I've described earlier, is that you need this to break those silos. Otherwise, you will never get to this perfect world I've just described to you. Up again. So that's the part 2 already. I told you it's going to be, short and sweet, hopefully. How Ansible can help. So very simply, for me, I posit, or I hope or suggest or think or believe, put whatever you want, that Ansible can be used as a lingua franca, so as a common language for everybody, where everybody involved in the company can use the automation provided by Ansible to automate each of their part. So let's roll back a bit to understand why this is important. If you go back to this OpenShift level of comfort I've described to you, where everything is click, 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 done, like I don't have to do anything, the keyword or the main requirement of everything is automation. I told you, you deploy an application, it failed, you roll back, that's an automation. I told you, you want to have all the security part done, the authorization part done automatically, that's an automation, and so on, and so on, and so on. Of course, OpenShift can be a huge part of that. It can do most, if not everything, of what I've described, but it's not the only solution. And the very important part is that when now we realize that everything is to be automated, so absolutely everything, and trying to not have part where it's becoming manual. So a perfect example in large organization is the devs have built a new version. Everything was automated, the release, the build, like everything was automated. At the end, there is this one little binary file to be deployed somewhere. And then it's like, oh, and now we are sending an email to the ops guy. That's not automation. You need to go, the pipeline needs to go down to the ops level and be deployed automatically and stuff like that. So everything needs to be automated. And as I put as a joke in the slide, and if you have a doubt, automate anyway, or automate more. However, the problem of silo is coming up quickly because, again, who is going to do the automation? If we talk about automating the build of the application, most likely dev. If we talk about automating the deployment of the configuration file of the automation, it's going to be dev, but also ops, maybe both, maybe none of them. And then if you talk about like provisioning the system, the target system, then the ops are going to be here and the dev disappear. And that's very much where the silo is becoming in many organizations. So the problem with whatever, or rather the issue with whatever I've been discussing since I started this presentation is that it's a very abstract, high-level stuff. So I'm pretty sure that you are all nodding your head saying, yeah, I know, but like, it's very generic. And if you're not familiar with the problem, you might be like thinking, okay, I have an hard time seeing how Ansible can help with this big high-level problem. So I'm going to try to take a very simple example to show you exactly what I mean by Ansible as a lingua franca. So it's going to be a very real life but simple problem because it needs to be understandable by everybody. So, but hopefully it's concrete enough for you guys to have a better grasp of what I've been aiming since I began speaking. So let's assume we are working for a big organization called Big Organization, and we want to release a new major version of MagicApp. It's a Java-based web app, so a good old-fashioned WAR file for people who know a bit about Java. And it's running on top of a product called Red Hat JBoss EAP, which is an app server. So you put Java application on EAP, and you have application running in your system. Those, I picked the product name from Red Hat because I'm used to those, but of course this is completely working with the open source version. We're talking about DevNation here, so it's not about all about product. So if you could replace Red Hat EAP by Wildfly if it's making your life easier in your head. Now this feature, this MagicApp application has a new feature. They added an audit thread in the app. Because again, we are in the 2020s, security matter. So this feature, this audit trial feature, is using a data source which was not used previously by the application. Okay, so just to give you the context. Just to give you the context and also kind of make it more real, let's assume that big organization is still using a VM infrastructure. It's based on VMware. Everywhere they're running RHEL machines, and if you care about this kind of low-level detail, the application is running OpenJDK GVMs. It has no bearing to the discussion. It's just to make you situated and try to have a full picture of the organization. Okay, so what's need to be done to deploy this new version of MagicApp? As always, you have to push the web file, like the WAR file, on the server. Okay, and you need to have the container EAP run again, like start deploying the application and running it. Okay, fine. You also need to tweak the EAP configuration because now we have these new data sources, which is a configuration thing that needs to happen in EAP. So when you deploy the app, you have also to ensure that this configuration is already there, which means that if you want to automate the process of deployment of the app, you also have to automate this part, the configuration of the EAP server. Let's start by the EAP server on the automation part. So in our big organization, the ops people, because again, we are a big organization that is not ready to be fully DevOps, or at least not yet. So the ops people are in charge of the EAP install. They mean that those are the guys running some kind of automation, in our case Ansible, that ensure that at the end of the provisioning of a virtual machine, you got an EAP server running on top of the system, in this case a RHEL system. So they prepare the virtual machine, they provision it, and at the end of the run, you have a systemd service on the system running EAP. However, those ops people have no idea about the configuration of the app server. They don't deal with the subsystem of EAP. They don't deal with the GVM tuning. A side note, in your organization, it can be quite different. Maybe your ops people are doing more. There is some organization where the ops people configure more stuff on the EAP level or go deeper on the configurations they're doing for the developer. There is other organizations where they do even less, and some organizations are still providing a RHEL system to the developer, and the developer are taking over on installing EAP themselves. Wherever the cursor is not really important because there is a cursor, and this cursor is where your silo begins. Okay, let's take a quick look at the ops part. They're going to use Ansible to install the EAP server, and thanks to us, Red Hat, but thanks to us, the Ansible middleware initiative that I have mentioned at the beginning of this talk, there is specific extension for Ansible to ease the use of EAP. With Ansible to ensure that you can fully automate the EAP installation with Ansible in the most easiest way. So this is why the playbook I'm showing you on the left side of the slide, well, left for me, maybe right for you. The playbook I'm showing you on the slide is very simple because all this playbook does is just say, hey, I'm importing the collection. Collection is basically extension for Ansible. So I'm importing the extension for Red Hat EAP. And then I just add this extension. Hey, can you do the two following steps? Install the EAP server and ensure that each EAP server is running as a systemd service on the target system. That's all. On the right side of the slide, you can see that I'm showing you what's happening when you go on the target system and you do a systemctl status JBoss EAP. You have an EAP server running on your target system. All of that has been fully automated. The box was empty. There was a basic RHEL on it. Ansible arrived, installed everything, dependencies, OpenJDK, any kind of configuration file you need to for EAP, blah. You have an EAP running. So that part is fully automated. The silo on the left, the ops, has done its job. Now let's look at the silo on the right, which is the dev. Those guys are in charge of the app deployment automation. So in this case, they need to deploy the WAR file on EAP, but that's very easy. You just push the file in the right place. And they also need to update the configuration of EAP because this new version, again, as mentioned, needs to have a specific data source configuration update to work. Fortunately, thanks to the collection I've mentioned, the Red Hat EAP collection I've mentioned, there is a feature making that very easy because you just need to provide a template for the configuration of EAP that's going to be automatically loaded by the collection and applied to the remote server. So how does it look like? Oh, before I do that, again, same disclaimer. Your organization may be a bit different. Maybe dev are not the one doing the driver part, or they're not the one doing the data source part. But that's fine. Again, it's such a detail for this presentation. Okay, so how the automation will look like here. So same thing here, as you can see with the command lines, the Ansible playbook is still going to be the same. It's going to be running the same playbook I showed you with inventory and stuff. Of course, if you don't run Ansible from a command line, it could be run by Ansible Automation Platform. Again, that's an information detail. Conceptually, there is the same playbook being run, and the dev just provide a template for this playbook, which is going to describe the configuration they want to have on the JBoss EAP install, JBoss EAP server, carrying the application they want to deploy. So the file being a bit long, I had to cut it in two pieces on the slide. So on the left side, you have the beginning of the file. You can see that there is something called wildfile configuration. It's basically the top root layer of the configuration file for EAP, which is called the upstream wildfile. And here we just say, hey, it's a bit cryptic if you don't know very well EAP, but I'm going to decipher that. It's very simple. Basically, this configuration is telling you, hey, now you have to use a new data sources. It's a PostgreSQL server, so please use this driver so that there is a JDBC driver, a Java database driver to communicate with Postgres. That's fairly easy. On the right side, it's a bit more interesting. This is a bit lower on the file. This is the data source declaration itself. So the application needs to have a data source named something that it's going to look up and connect to put the audit trail data in. And this is the part happening there. And what's interesting on the slide here, if you are familiar with Ansible, is that you can notice that I have used templating format. There is some variables like dsname, dspool max size. Those are Ansible variables. So the dev can put them there saying, okay, we don't know what the prod is going to use as a data source's name. They're going to take care of that. We just put the variable name, DS name, and we trust them that when they run the playbook down the street, they will valorize this variable with the right name for the data source. And same thing with the username of the password. So dev environment can run this automation, build their own dev environment exactly like prod is going to do it, except that they're going to use the data source dev name, they're going to use the data source dev credential, and so on. And that's basically going to work magically, and they're going to run the same thing on qualification, and then the same thing on prod is going to work. So that hopefully this little example has kind of drive my point. I hope it has. If not, I apologize. If it has not driven my point, or if you have a question or comments, this is now the time to do it, because I'm going to switch to the last slide called the end. So if you have any question, please fire them. I'm going to look at the comments. But just to conclude, generally, when I talk about what we do on Ansible middleware, I start by, hey, this is how we can automate on EAP using Ansible. And people are not always very much understanding the bigger picture here. So this is why I wanted for this presentation to do the other way around, showing you the problem you have on silos and how, when you drill down from that, you need this level of integration between Ansible and your applications to make that work. And if you do that, if you have this level of integration, and hopefully in the case of the Red Hat middleware product, we provide that for you, then you can build your own automation that can be as complete and as powerful as what I've described as OpenShift level of comfort. And you can get that now with your bare metal, with your virtual VMware environment. You don't need to wait to be able to run OpenShift to get to this level of comfort. And I want to say it's even more important because you want to know how this works, and I've built that before getting to OpenShift, so that when you arrive to OpenShift, you know your whole application and organization have already been tailored in this direction. Okay, I don't see any questions, so I have either I was boring for everybody and everybody slept. I hope you had a good nap, or hopefully I was clear enough for you to understand. But in any case, I'm done.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Romain, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
As I mentioned, this recording will be available on YouTube. We'll share information as soon as that's posted. And right now, you've got 5 minutes to make a transition to the next session. You can either hang out on this track, the Java and app modernization track. Following this, we're going to have a session called Java, Life is Short. Or you could switch to one of the other two stages where you can listen to a session around containers to pods on Kubernetes, or you could go to the one on the intelligent apps track around developing a stream processing app with Kafka and Quarkus. So enjoy the next sessions and look forward to hanging out with you in the chat during the day. Bye.